Hey, it's Amir Borman. This is the Daily 10 segment of the Talent Tango podcast. I am here next to my brother.
We don't look like brothers, but I am.
He actually literally just said what I was going to say. So that's kind of creepy and weird, even though, we resemble nothing of each other. If you've ever listened to the podcast, check out a video. You'll be like, the hell, these guys are actually brothers. We'll put out driver's licenses if we have to and prove it. Birth certificates as well. You never know. So today I want to talk about, we talked about, hiring processes, our internal processes. We define competencies. I want to talk specifically today about coachability.
It's a big one.
Um, Coachability is a big one, and we actually worked and it's a tricky one because coachability is very difficult to interview for.
Yep.
So Ross Clement, who we worked with for quite a while on developing our coaching, our hiring competencies, and coachability being one of them. Um, I think what we learned and why it's important to us is it's very difficult to, especially we hire a lot of entry level people, people without any recruiting experience, people who've never done this job before. It's very difficult to teach someone something unless they have the ability to absorb something, digest it, make it their own, to kind of build on it as a building block. Otherwise, I mean, it just becomes impossible.
Yeah, I think when you think about trying to learn whatever, level of person you're at for any job, any, position, there's always more room to grow, more room to improve. So I think coachability from our perspective is it encompasses a lot, right? Can this person take direction? Can this person be flexible in being able to understand, why maybe we do things a certain way? And I think that's when you get into the tricky areas where, somebody comes from a different, company, has certain kind of way that they operated under that circumstance. And that's great. It worked there. And there's definitely some components that could be applicable to where you work now. But obviously, every organization has kind of a different internal process and how they kind of function. So I think it's being able to have that flexibility in how you go about your workflow and process. And obviously, coachability to me also shows that you want to improve and you don't think you already know everything. And if anybody knows, if you've been there and you think you do, that's when you get your ass handed to you.
Yeah, and I think, someone who is coachable and they stay that way throughout their career, they still have those same attributes. Like, 5 years experience, they're still open to learning a different way. And I think being open-minded versus closed-minded is a big component here. And I think equally as important as somebody who's coachable, like you have to, you have the coachability, but then you also have to have the appropriate feedback loop to that
Sure.
person to be able to help them understand what to be working on and be able to communicate. And again, it's tricky because coachability is one of those where it's not just, it doesn't jump out at you when you're interviewing. You're probing for behavior, you're probing for, tone, attitude. It's a lot of nonverbal cues that also build in there to tell how someone might react when they're pushed in a situation and it didn't go their way, how they responded to the feedback, what way they take feedback best, all those type of things. But also, you have to have internally a way to get that feedback back to the person once they're there, so they know what they should be working on. Because if they are coachable, they'll want that. They'll want to know, how can I improve? My favorite thing is when an employee goes, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes? Let me know." And it happened today, right? It
Yeah.
happened today with actually senior recruiter. He was like, "Hey, I want to know, what can I do to improve, and what areas do you think?" And I'm like, that's highly coachable competency because they want that feedback. They're always pushing. They know, I know, I don't know everything, as you mentioned. I'm listening to the other, everyone else out there to see, can I pick something up from them that I can use? And him asking today, I felt happy about that.
Well, you know what? It's even learning from people that don't have a lot of experience in particular, maybe something you're doing because they're coming in with a fresh set of eyes. So I think the aspect of coachability ties directly into, are you a high achiever? Do you want to keep improving your own personal results and or that your organization or whatever the case is? So if you are in that mindset, you're always looking to learn more. And if you're looking to learn more innately, that means that you will be coachable because it means you must be flexible to the way you're doing business now and how you're operating and the behaviors that go into kind of where you've gotten to now, right? So I think it's important to recognize that that one aspect of coachability really ties into a couple different things. And growing up, I had a really good coach that basically his goal was, could he figure out one or two one aspect to focus on to make two or three other things click.
Cornerstone habits. So I've
Exactly.
referred to the book, and I referred to the fact that I don't read anymore. I listen to books
I
only.
think it's called listening, not reading. I do
Yeah,
the
it's
same. So
yeah,
I'm
it's
always
I
like, am
keep
I
saying
lying?
yeah, I always go, "I'm reading this book," and I'm like, I am lying because 'cause I'm not actually reading it. I'm listening to the book, but, listening on Audible to James Clear, his book, Atomic Habits, and talking about cornerstone habits. This is one of those to me when you have someone who's coachable, it drives other behaviors, and this could be in accounting, it could be an engineer, it could be a lawyer. When you have that coachable person and they gain experience, they maintain that level of coachability. Like I want our new hires to come tell us in the first 60, 90 days what immediately jumps out that could be improved training. Like I want to know. I want to know the feedback on, how did it go after a year? What could we have improved training? Like those are
Sure.
all things that if, and I think Gary Vaynerchuk always says he reads comments. He doesn't consume any other form of content except he reads comments because he's literally looking for that feedback. He wants to hear what people have to say. Obviously, he's coachable. He's taking that in. He's internalizing it. He's using it to better
Well,
himself.
that's your audience, right? So I think when you're thinking about your team, the person or people coming onto your team, that is your immediate audience. So knowing how they are consuming what you're telling them, you want their feedback. So I think it's equally important to have that kind of culture where you are open to that feedback because that shows that you're coachable, right? And you're looking for any sort of areas to improve. And then obviously you want people that on your team, vice versa, are also able to take direction. Because I think in any instance, once you have that clarity and you're able to kind of articulate areas of improvement or be able to get someone to, I hate to say this, the next level, then it's difficult if they're very kind of in their own, I got it, I'm good, and they are never open to trying something new out.
Well, on flip side, we've hired people who come in a couple of weeks in, a couple of months in. They think that they understand the entire job, and it does become a little bit of, and this was before, I think before we went through and identified the competencies a couple of years ago. You're trying to explain to them nuances to the role, and you get this glazed look like, dude, I already know this job, you don't have to explain it. And you're like, you've only been doing it for like 12 weeks, like.
Right.
And I think that becomes a difficult barrier to cross over because you cannot convince someone that there's a better way unless there's a bit of openness to the new idea, the new concept, and whatever. Again, it's a lifelong learning journey. Like it's all about learning, and basically, being coachable means you're open to finding a new way, or you're open to listening how to do things better. And I think, high achievers, high performers, all probably have some form of that. Athletes, everybody out in that level.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's the most important real estate is in between your ears, and I think the people that tune people out, you know, that's not to say that somebody might really understand how to do something real quickly, like they just might be really sharp. But even having said that, I think then what comes into play is ego and arrogance. And if you look at historically any ruler or society, that's always that there's some level of arrogance that usually is a downfall. So I think seeing those traits in somebody early on, it's just, the writing's on the wall already from a coachability standpoint that it's gonna be tough to get them to learn and improve, right? And I think if you look at great athletes, Roger Federer still tries to improve, and he's 38 and he's 20 Grand Slam champion. So I think when you're looking at people at the highest level in their particular game or sport and business trying to keep improving, then all of us should have that same mindset.
Absolutely. So let us know if coachability is a competency that you guys interview
Yeah.
for.
Or
Um,
what is one of your
Well, I was
cornerstone
gonna say,
habits?
what is one of the cornerstone habits? What are the competencies? I'm very curious. We have our set. I'd love to see what other people are doing, and we'll be back again. Thanks.